Katie Anderson, welcome to Dr. M's podcast. I'm so thrilled that you consented to come for the second time on my podcast. And last time we did was somewhere around November. Last time you did the second episode with me, and now you're back. And thank you very much. You're a busy person. But then to get you and to be my guest is a real honor for me. Thank you very much. And let me do the standard work. I mean, I have been on this for quite some time, and being a Toyota TPS guy, lean guy, so I have to do my standard work. So,
Yes.
And I have to do the honors of introducing you. Everybody knows you. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I have to do it.
All right. Well, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm glad that Katie Anderson, when you came, you were on the second episode, and now you're coming on the 41st episode. So that we have traveled a lot, and I've been moving around. You have been moving around physically. I've been moving around virtually. That's all. Okay, but then you've become very famous and a celebrity. And I'll tell you something else. There you are. Everybody knows about you, internationally recognized. The minute I say Katie Anderson, they say, "Oh my God, when can I hear from her?" I said, "You just hold on." So they're a professional speaker. There's the famous book, Learning to Lead and Leading to Learn, and everything. And I have been listening to Yoshino-san in a couple of videos that he is too good the way he talks about it. Last time he talked about Kaizen, and you remarked that it happened before the pandemic. And today you also quoted him with respect to Kaizen, take small steps. And I always follow whatever you put up. And I'll tell you why I do that is because I did get a doll, drama doll for good luck and perseverance and everything what you told me. And it did good to me. And my daughter stole it away from me. So she has promised to return it back. Get a new one for me. So when I get it, I'm going to blank the left eye. I know the protocols. I know the standard work, what you have to do. Now is a surprise. You're signing all those autographs, Katie. How many books I don't know you autographed? I know, I don't know how many autographs, but there's something that I want to tell you. Okay. It's way back in 29 July 2021. You saw this, the top reviews from India? Who gave it to you?
Right on the top.
Is Dr. Mohan.
Thank you, Dr. M.
No, those days I was called Dr. Mohan because I was not there on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And it was only in November I started podcasting. And I had put over there the secret the readers wanted to learn and lead. And my prophecy was good. I wrote over here the smooth flow of narration, quite a deep dive to the surface, out to the readers, a different perspective of leadership that ignites latent curiosity of the reader. That's what I wrote over there. And you know what? I don't have a single autograph book of yours.
Oh, we'll have to fix it. We're going to have to fix that. I need to get over to India one of these days again.
Anyway, you're going to come to India and get it autographed by you. So what drove me to this is I'm studying Deming, and it's taking me quite a while because a deep dive into it. And this is what I saw from Tim Higgins. He said he tried to find out curiosity, knowledge, improvement, and learning. And he said, look, there's no sequence in it. I mean, if you have curiosity, you get your knowledge. If you want knowledge, then you have to have curiosity, and there's a learning. So that was the exact. So I said, let me put it across to Katie, because I know the 7 C's of yours, that is, you have a caring, curiosity, and courage, which later on, when you lead by intent, there's a term that you use, is you develop the capability, confidence, and clarity, and creativity amongst the people that you're leading. So my query, therefore, became that if you don't look after yourself, if you don't improve yourself, if you don't care for yourself, you don't have curiosity to improve yourself, and you don't have the courage to look within, how are you going to develop your capabilities, confidence, clarity, and creativity? So therefore, I wanted to talk to you about, and you're going to give me a lot of insight about the chain of learning. How is it done? I forgot that. This way?
Can you see? What doesn't matter? It's just about linking your hands.
Yeah, so the chain of knowledge, chain of learning for personal and professional both. So I was saying, let's hear Katie talk about it. We told the leaders how to look after their people, how to make them grow. We know the concept of Hensai, which is drilled into us of Hensai. Hensai itself is for personal growth. I understand that part of it, but can we deep dive into it so that we can talk about it?
Sure.
Are we good to go? So I'm going to stop sharing. Of course, I have to promote myself. I have to promote myself saying that you're on Dr. M's podcast. So here we go.
Great. Well, thank you again for having me and continuing our conversation, which started a year ago about ConPro and how, and if we're linking this to actually this chain of learning, that was my giant Daruma here that I just knocked over. The chain of learning is about how Toyota in the beginning. So actually, let me take a step back. So the very first time I heard this concept of a chain of learning, it was when I was doing purposeful interviews several years ago with Mr. Isao Yoshino, the subject of my book, about his 40 years at Toyota. And he mentioned this phrase, a chain of learning, when he was reflecting on his early years at Toyota and how much people at all different levels, not just his direct boss, but peers or different people in the organization cared about helping each other learn and grow. And he used this word saying, I'm going to paraphrase him. He said something about, I felt so blessed to have joined a company that really had this belief in a chain of learning. And I see this as how we all connect with each other. And I've embraced this concept of a chain of learning about the foundation of really how we create a learning organization. And it's through, as you said, now these 7 C's of leadership that I talk about, or the chain of learning, is if we can lead with a mindset of curiosity, a questioning mind, curious about the world, curious about other people, something about the heart. So leading with coming from a caring place and connected with the heart and the human spirit, and also the fortitude to have courage to set challenging targets, courage to hold up the mirror and give what could be to have potentially difficult feedback, but coming from a place of kindness, and the courage to look within ourselves. And when we do that, that's where we help develop this capability and confidence for problem solving at all levels of the organization. We help people get clarity, so that convergent thinking on what's the actual problem, and also spark the creativity of what we might do. And so this real process of continuous improvement. And then there's actually this 8th C too, which is the connection between us, because it's really this connection of the links that strengthens us. And this gets back to the concept of learning to lead and leading to learn. We learn by being a leader and helping others learn. And then we learn through that process. And it's so that bond between us that really creates this chain of learning and really is the foundation and the secret to Toyota's success. So all the tools and the processes and everything else, those are structures that help enable the learning to happen. So, and then ConPro, which I came and talked about on your first show, or the first show I was on, episode 2, was a 2-year learning program to strengthen these bonds of the chain of learning from managers to their direct reports and across the organization as well. And so I just love this concept that we're all connected to each other through how we show up and what we create through our human spirit.
So, Katie, where I'm coming from is you don't get an ideal organization to work in. Okay. Many of us, we go to work, and I moved up from a supervisor's level to a director's level and what have you, but you don't get an ideal place. You don't get an ideal boss. I mean, even if people have read your book, it takes time for you to put it into practice. You require this sort of a climate, but then you have to some of us have to get food on the table, so we bear with it. and we talk about toxicity, etc., etc. I was just wondering whether all this concept of caring, being curious, being having courage, why don't we apply it to ourselves for our personal growth and our professional growth? Because way back, having met Stephen Covey personally, and I was lucky that I was born very early, that in 1977 I met Peter Drucker, and he talked about automotivation, that how you motivate yourself, etc. That although I mean that's what has pulled me through for so many years, and having met Stephen Covey, and that also by chance, is that when it's beyond your sphere of, it's in a sphere of concern, not a sphere of influence, your organization or the leadership, etc. So it's onus on you. How do you survive? Because if you're going to take toxicity from the organization back home, you're going to have issues at home. I'm just putting it across. Many of us can camouflage it, but then it doesn't go away that you walk out of the gate and you're perfectly fine. So these 7 concepts is, and we have been talking in our book, and you know, I read each and every page of yours. So here we go. So we talk a lot about Hensai. So all this can be applied to our self personal growth and professional growth either. What's your take on that?
About how Hansei
No, all your seven C's to apply it on oneself and for personal growth and professional growth.
Well, so I believe that those 7 C's apply across all of our relationships. So it's not just a chain of learning that we create in our workplace, but striving to create that in our personal lives too. And I see learning is about how we help each other. How we're helping each other move forward, learning something new, overcoming personal challenges or personal problems, or taking on a new, anything new or developing. I liken it to being a parent as well. I'm trying to create this chain of learning with my children and my family. How do I partner with my partner, with my husband? And how do I bring these same concepts and being into my professional life as well? And certainly, if you're in a workplace where there isn't caring and there isn't curiosity, it becomes toxic because you are then not able to develop and embody your own capability and confidence, or being asked to express your creativity. And so, this is where we have the broken links, is if people in the organization are not showing up with caring and curiosity and frankly courage to look within their own selves, we won't be able to have ourselves and express ourselves, that other side. So we at both are on both sides of the chain of learning. It just depends on our role in the moment, in our situation in the moment, because we need other people to help foster for us our capability and our confidence and our creativity and clarity of where we need to go and how we're going to get there. So we're not just on one side or the other. Both sides of our, if you think about the other side of the link, we embody all 7 of those, and we need help, and we need to help others as well. So absolutely. I mean, Mr. Yoshino talks about in the book, Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn, how even at Toyota, he had some bad managers and bad leaders. And in fact, probably about 10 years into his career at Toyota, he had a really terrible boss that created a very toxic workplace, and it was not good for him. But through that process, and it was bad. I want to be honest, it was very bad. But he also learned what he didn't want to be as a boss, because he didn't want to create that environment for other people. And ultimately, although it was several years, that person got moved out into a different role, and in not an official management capacity, because he was breaking the links across the organization. So, yeah.
Getty, Hide Obe-san, he was on my show a couple of occasions, and he was born in Nagoya, if that's the pronunciation correct, because I normally get the pronunciation right. So he was born there. His father worked for Toyota. One of the things that he told us, because he has done 3 episodes. Now, one of the episodes that he did was Japanese culture and Toyota production system. He was telling us that they form informal groups, right? So they support each other.
Yes.
And he was saying that his father, the batch that comes, they have an intake. You know it better. They have an intake probably in April or what have you. The batch synchronizes with each other, and they have informal meetings in the sense they talk about each other's functions, etc., and they form a chain of learning, irrespective of whether the boss likes it or not. But there is an informal group that is made that that supports the curiosity in an individual that gets activated. He gave specific example of his father not knowing about quality, and then he goes to the quality person and understand. And that's a sort of a chain of learning that Toyota encourages. That's what he told me. So it may not be a formal structure. It becomes an informal structure where you can, all the 3 C's that you are talking about, caring, curiosity, and courage. You can have an informal structure. It may not be your boss.
Absolutely. And that's exactly how Mr. Yoshino was using that phrase the first time I heard it from him. Was this chain of learning wasn't necessarily through direct, I mean, it was also through direct formal reporting relationships, but it was through these informal relationships and even, groups that come together. And Mr. Yoshino's talked about that, his own experience with that, and multiple times through his career. And, that's my experience too. How do we come together to collaborate? How do we have networks that help us, support us, even if we're not potentially getting that from our direct reporting relationship? There are other ways that we can foster chains of learning in our lives. And that strengthens us as individuals, and where then we can influence out to others. So it's not that we should always, we always have an opportunity to start building our own chain of learning, even if potentially it's not coming directly from our official boss or supervisor, because we have the opportunity to build links through how we're showing up.
So it's the curiosity, and I'm coming back to the same thing about curiosity, caring for yourself, and having the courage, like what you mentioned, of having informal groups where you can, because of your curiosity, understand the knowledge and get the learning from the others, the knowledge from the others. In as much as you can do it within the organization, there are many of us who are curious, who like to talk a lot. I was doing this episode with Ravi Rao. He himself is a prodigy. At the age of 29, he was an MD in neurosciences, and he did his PhD in neurosciences. So he was telling me that as a human being, you like to express your life, you like to speak, you want to talk, and you're curious. So he was saying that if your curiosity is not satisfied within the organization, find somewhere else where you can get your curiosity, etc. So your chain of learning is not confined, as you said, to a vertical thing. It's horizontal, and not only limited to the boundaries of your organization. You take it out, that part of it, from somewhere else.
Yes. And your curiosity isn't always just about you learning. It's how are you curious to ask more open questions to help yourself learn, but help other people learn, or invite their thinking in. And so you can still show up with a spirit of curiosity to ask more questions and to start fostering an environment potentially where people come forward with more ideas, or you hear other voices. I talk a lot about how we need to break the telling habit, which is us not always just coming in with our ideas. So we can maybe believe that we are people of curiosity, and actually we are curious, but one of our blind spots is that we're coming in and just making all these suggestions and ideas and putting our solution forward, and not realizing that it's actually having the opposite impact than of fostering like dialogue and input from other people too. So how do we stay curious a little longer, ask a few more questions, and invite a few more insights? And as you said too, if we're not able to express all of our curiosity within our working environment, there's so many other places we can also go out to learn. As we're talking, I'm thinking about how there's a story in the book too about how Mr. Yoshino showed up. I think this is case study 4 after he lived in the United States for 4 years, he came back to an office in Nagoya, and he had this sense that the people working for him just were going through the motions, that they hadn't ever been sort of asked to contribute their ideas. And so they had lost their sense of curiosity. And his whole desire was how to reawaken their curiosity, not just at work, but to see other like go out and like go to another city and be curious to go learn. And he even got 22 international plane tickets so people could go to overseas countries. I mean, that was going well and beyond, but how to spark that sense of curiosity, and then how do you take the initiative to go explore that? So I love that concept. We don't have to, your curiosity doesn't have to be limited to just the confines of your role or your workplace. And there's so many things that we have our internal passions for that we need to pursue as well.
This is out of the cuff, and while you were talking about it, I was wondering, and you can ask me to stop recording if you don't want to answer this question. Tell me, Katie, wasn't it the curiosity in you that made you get in touch with a professional relationship with Yoshino?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And look where it has. I'm just taking a personal example. I'm sorry I did not even give you a head start on that, because we are talking about it. I was wondering that if Katie was not curious, would we have ever got a book called Learning to Lead and Leading to Learn? I don't think we would have ever got it. I'm talking your personal self. I'm sorry, I did not take your permission to ask you this question, but I'm asking you straight away. Is you were curious, you had the courage of meeting Yoshino-san, and there was amount of curiosity, there was all the 3 C's were applicable to you. And what did you do? You have the professional knowledge, you have a personal growth. Now, why can't that be a role model to everybody? That these are the 3 things, and what are the 4 other things that you got? The capability, the creativity, all the 4, all the 7 is embedded in what you're doing. I don't have to get another example to prove it.
Well, there's so many, and it's, I've one of my strongest qualities is being a learner. So like I have inherent curiosity, but I do have the courage to sort of take that forward as well, and to make things happen. I could have just gone to Japan and let the experience go by. I could have met with Mr. Yoshino once and just let that be a once in a lifetime thing. Although he and I had this sense of caring right away. We are very kindred spirits. In fact, I was just talking with him last night. He and I talk probably at least every other week still, even if it's not about something specific professionally, just because we are we're so close now. But I didn't want to have the curiosity end with just me and my learning. And that's why I asked Mr. Yoshino if I could write about our conversations. I'd started writing a blog when I moved to Japan for 18 months at the beginning of 2015, because I felt like I was in this unique position, not just to learn for myself, but to share that learning with others. And really that was like building my international chain of learning through that, which was through the writing and sharing my insights of visiting all these Japanese companies, Toyota, speaking with Mr. Yoshino. And that was the genesis of what became Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn. And I agree, the book or the documentation of Mr. Yoshino's wisdom is unlikely to have happened without this connection between Mr. Yoshino and myself. I couldn't have done the book without him, and the book and a similar type of book wouldn't have happened without me. And so this is the beauty. And you started this before we were recording. One of my favorite phrases, 1 + 1 = much more than 2. And that was really that embodied in the creation of this book and our partnership together. And our partnership and now links with you and everyone who's listening, who is part of our chain of learning too, by the very nature of taking the initiative to listen to this podcast or to read the book, and then to share your insights with other people. And it's these links together, which is how we really create this better world, honestly.
You know what this vodcast has done to me? That I've become, and I'm called the silent host because I keep listening, and that's the way I started learning. So, so that's the way I learn because it's invariably we speak, and then I pause and listen to the host, which who was, to be very honest, if it was not that I started listening and what you're talking about, the telling culture, I used to tell people, right? Because that was my style of doing it, and I've changed now. So I've become a silent. I become a silent host these days, so I listen a lot. So I know now. You told me all the three things that is applicable, which you have practically done it yourself among the seven C's that we're talking about. You made it the eighth one right now. That is
Yes.
connect, right? So the three. You were curious, you were caring, you were curious, and you had the courage. So these are the three C's. What did it give you? All the five?
Gave well,
I,
and
I,
yeah, got the capability, the confidence, got clarity through working and partnering together, and also the creativity, honestly, to write the book and to think about things in a different way.
and look
How
at your
might we?
connection. Look at your connection. You're globally connected now.
Yes.
So my
Yeah.
question is, of course, being a Deming fan, there's a popular thing they said: if Japan can, why can't we?
Yes. It's a
You
great
know
old
that.
article. Yes.
Yeah. So now I'm telling my audience: if Katie can, why can't you?
Mm.
Despite all the, and you're not talking about it. You yourself have lived through the seven that I started with. Now you added the eight. That's a real creativity in you that you added one more, which is called the connect.
Well, I started to make the Venn diagram and I realized actually it's this connection. So it's the connection that allows for the seven C's to manifest.
Hmm.
Mm.
So I thought I would talk deeper into it. Uh, is one of the things that really bothers me in an organization, like I started before. Stop talking. If you're going to talk about toxicity, like the chain of learning, where you spread to others, interaction, etc., you can spread the same toxicity across the organization. Unless, of course, you improve yourself, you're going to spread the toxicity around. And you don't know, at some point of time, you will be isolated. Or, I mean, it's very easy to say if you can't bear the heat, get out of the kitchen. For many of us, it's not possible because we have to get put to the table. So the better course of instead of burning inside, why don't you care for yourself? And you have a role model in Katie Anderson. Why don't you do what Katie Anderson did? Caring, having the courage, and the curiosity. Why don't we individuals working in an organization spend better time, a better life, instead of just cribbing that there's toxicity all around?
And I want, you're touching on this too, that caring goes for caring for ourselves too.
Mm.
And, and sometimes caring is how do you remove yourself from a toxic environment, or how do you protect yourself if
Please
leaving
speak
isn't an
more about
option?
it. How do
Excuse
you go
me?
about it? Speak more about it. Get away. How do you get out of the toxicity from that?
Well, there's, I'm not gonna have the answers for all this. And sometimes we don't have there are other constraints that don't allow us to maybe leave a situation. So leaving is obviously one option. And that happened to me in my career. I had an environment that switched, there some dynamics switched at my work. And I didn't realize how bad it had gotten for me personally. It wasn't that there was anyone, it was just the culmination. It was no longer I wasn't sleeping at night. I was stressed all the time. And I realized that I needed to make a change. At first, I didn't feel like I could make a change, but I realized that was me feeling afraid. And so I had to tap into my courage to leave and do something different, and to have the confidence as well that I would find another opportunity. And in doing so, it actually opened up even more doors. But there was a period of time where I too was stuck in this feeling of I can't leave for, financial reasons and, professional, I'm climbing the career ladder. But when I was able to tap into my courage and my creativity of what other possibilities might there be, it opened up so many more doors. And that's when I started my consulting practice. And from that point on, has really been, I'm actually impacting so many more people and feel so thriving in it. There were a lot of good things about the role I was in too, but there were just so many factors going on. And so we have to have the courage to also pay attention to when we are overly stressed, when we're not sleeping, when we're feeling like we're stuck and there's nothing to do. How can we have other people help us tap into our creativity or have the confidence to leave or to know that, to have the self-caring and care to do that. And so we have to, that can be very hard. And, there's so many different environments of different levels of toxicity. If you can't leave, how can you protect yourself? How can you put boundaries on things or ask for help? So I don't, every situation matters, it differs, but we can't forget to care about ourselves too.
Yeah, I take it from there. So if the primary objective, yes, we spread happiness, we spread learning, etc. Where I'm coming from is, if you start caring about yourself, if you cannot leave the organization, as you rightly said, the chain of learning does not stop within the boundaries of the organization. Your curiosity elsewhere can move across to other fields where you get reinforcement of yourself. What are you trying to do? You're trying to reinforce yourself, get the courage that you matter to yourself first before you matter to the others.
Yes, and there are other ways that you can see your job as more of just, I'm here for the purpose of earning a paycheck, and that's fine. And I'm going to get the things that foster my spirit elsewhere. Now, hopefully in our ideal situation, those are merged together, right? In a place where we are working in an environment where we're both earning a paycheck and feeling connected to purpose and having meaningful things. But again, we live in an imperfect world, and that's not the situation for everyone. So that's what we aspire to, you and I are aspiring to create and inspire more people, more leaders, more organizations to start creating this environment and creates this mesh of change. So not just literally, but around, where people then feel connected to purpose, connected to what they're doing each and every day, that it has meaning, and that they are able to express their curiosity and be part of making things better. And so that's our true north. That's what we want to get to.
So one of the important things that you have written, and Yoshino has been saying that repeatedly, and my sensei is Sensei Masaki Imai, and he has been really the turning point in my life. And he's, of course, 92 years old now. When I met him, that was about 20 years ago. He used to always talk to me about Mohan-san, and normally it happens not during the Gamba, it was always after the Gamba, when I sit with him for a dinner, etc. He used to always say, you have to do Hensai. That's the first time that I heard from my sensei Masaki about Hensai. And I have been listening to, you have written a lot of Hensai. What is Hensai per se?
Yes.
Aren't you reflecting within yourself?
Well, Hansei translates directly from Japanese to English as self-reflection.
Yeah.
And there's also reflection to organizational level. And actually, the working title I had while working on this book was Practicing Hansei, because the sort of the meta experience, the creation of this book was practicing reflection together, and helping Mr. Yoshino practice Hansei, and then me practicing Hansei through processing all of his stories, going back, trying to make sense of it, putting some framing around it. So Hansei is the critical part of what makes Toyota successful. It's the critical part of the plan, do, study, adjust, cycle, or as I like to say, study, adjust, plan, do. It's a continuous cycle. It doesn't matter where we start, but we forget the study. And this is the reflection. And studying, reflecting is where the learning happens and the wisdom across generations is created. And what happens in most of our organizations or our daily lives? Under pressure, under urgency of timelines or all the things, all of our busyness, what do we stop doing? What do we not make time for? Reflection. And therefore, we're actually cutting out the most critical part, which is where truly the learning happens. And that's where we can make improvement and get better. And so basically, we get stuck in this do, or plan, do. We're just sort of taking actions. I read the post I made on LinkedIn yesterday based on the conversation I had with Mr. Yoshino. And, actually I have my notes right here of just, I was writing down, this is like the story of our relationship. I was writing down things that he said. And, he said that you have to start with something small, a small success, and have the patience to build over time. I'm now paraphrasing what he said. And sometimes it can, and then learn, and that's where the reflection, the hansei happens. And it takes time, and maybe you feel like it's not worthwhile to go so slowly, to have more time for reflection, to take, to study up front. But ultimately, it's going to make you better and get you there faster than, what did he say? If you jump around really fast, hoping you're going to get there, but you're probably like jumping around on the wrong stones. So hansei is about, you can have a longer reflection. What did we expect to happen? What actually happened? What are we learning? Hansei can also happen in these micro moments. And so encourage people not to see that hansei or reflection always has to happen in this like big time block. We can do micro hansei, micro reflections. And this is what I think is so critical in how we start building these habits. I encourage people to take what I call an intention pause. So when you're going into a new conversation, a new meeting, or like the next thing, say, like, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? What actions am I going to take? Like, what impact do I want to have? And then at the end of that, say, how did that go? And like, you can even just be internally or just write it down. How did that go? Did I show up how I wanted to? What was the impact? It can be literally 30 seconds to a minute on either end. And that intention setting and that reflection time, that's the key accelerator, the learning to improvement to everything. And when we can practice this on ourselves as individuals, we get better at it, at doing it at our teams and in our organizations. So hansei is the critical part, the reflection, the study to really creating learning. So it's so important. And I would imagine that all Toyota senseis know this so deeply, and it's so just ingrained in how they are. And we have to create structures that help us, because we are, it doesn't come as naturally to us.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't, it has to become a sort of an habit, which has to be probably done repeatedly. And that's one of the things that I know you know about it, but my sensei Masaki Imai, who was famous for his Gemba Kaizen, he's a Gemba guy who talks about Kaizen, and I follow what he talks about. And we were, there's so much of a misnomer around the word Kaizen. I know you have defined Kaizen very often in your posts. It's the small things that you do, little bits that you do. And I read your post today, and I know that, I mean, you know that I follow you very seriously and deeply, so that I understand all what you learned from Yoshino. I'm not going to miss an opportunity of not learning it from you. So I'm quite curious to know what Katie's up to and get the thoughts of Yoshino through you, and you express it so well. So the small changes that you do, and one of the things that you told me, and what I like about it is, although this is PDCA as a Deming Circle, and 14th of October is Deming's birthday. So last time we did send a poem to Diana, and she came back Diana Deming. She came back by saying, and there in the poem we had written PDCA, he said, that my father never liked the word C because
Yes.
to him, he said, it's check. So he said, he always preferred what Stuart has said, a PDSA. Now, as you rightly said, you can start from anywhere. As a matter of fact, I in sync with you that whenever you go to an organization, you don't get a stable thing. You got to study that first, and then you stabilize it, and then you put standard work. Whatever you want to do, you do that. So is it SDCA for us? Whoever follows Sensei Masaki, it's this SDCA, and then you go to PDC, etc. So I like what you were saying, and I follow you because of that intentional of studying what is happening. You have the intent, you go through the process, and then you reflect. That's what you are trying to tell me, and that you can do for yourself too.
Yes.
Whether
Yes.
it is an interaction or what you're going to make for the breakfast, how you're going to send the kids, and what's the frame of mind you want, what clothes you're going to wear, and your relationship that starts from the organization, from your home. You carry all the positive feeling from your home with your connected learning or caring, curiosity, whatever it is, and then you take it to the organization. But then you get toxicity over there. See to it that you leave it over there and don't bring it back. Always a tough job, but as you said, Hensai has to be practiced, taught, and repeatedly. Even a
Yes.
small bit
And
go ahead.
yes, and then and then from an organizational standpoint, how do we bring more Hansei, more study into our structure? So often, I see Western companies trying to practice strategy deployment or starting to put in strategy deployment, or what's known as Hoshin Kanri in Japanese, but they're doing it with a sort of a former mindset of we're just going to create the plan, and then we're going to maybe we'll have a few checks along the way, but we're not really having Hansei. We're not looking at the process, and we're not building in enough structured time to really do the checking. It's almost like gets to the end of the year, and then it's like, oh, did we do it or not? So when Mr. Yoshino has emphasized this multiple times, and the Hoshin Kanri workshops that we have and that are available on my website and in the book as well, that you have to build in the intentional time for Hansei. Otherwise, we forget to do it, or things get too urgent, and and without that Hansei, then we're not really doing what the process is set up to do, because we're missing that critical part. Both how you bring micro Hansei into your own actions, and how do you build in longer structure within teams and organizations to be learning and practicing together.
Well, that is great, and there are a lot of takeaways from what you said of doing Hansei. You develop yourself, and it didn't occur to me till we started speaking. I said, there you are, a role model who has practiced all the 7, and the 8th one, which we introduced, of connect, that was quite amazing. And anything else that you would like to add? Because I got what I wanted, and I mean, I wanted to learn, and that's a curiousness, and that's what one of the curiousness is when you're coming to India. That's another part of it. But then I did get a lot of sense, and I'm sure the viewers who view at it would know that this is not limited to the organization itself. Fair enough. However, the way I understand it is that you do Hansei, your curiosity, etc. You're not getting it inside. Toyota practice it even horizontally, as you said. Go outside and get whatever you want. Look after yourself, and do your Hansei of reflection, the intent, even small things, as you said. Or do a Kaizen as micro as possible, and macro and micro. Doesn't matter. So long as there's an element of Hansei in that.
Yes.
I think that I hope I've captured you quite okay this time.
You have, and thank you so much, Dr. M, for this great conversation, and for allowing me to share more about the 7 C's of creating a chain of learning, and the 8th of connection, and the critical practice of Hansei, and how that relates to really creating learning. And so I have a challenge for your listeners and viewers to practice some Hansei right now, and share what was a key takeaway that they have had from listening to this conversation, and what are they going to take away and start putting into practice for themselves, and to share that either in the comments, wherever this is posted, or where you're viewing on LinkedIn or on your YouTube channel, wherever it may be. So
yeah, it will be posted on 13th on LinkedIn and on the YouTube.
great.
And I'm sure most of my followers and your followers too would
Yes,
comment on this part of what we talked about.
yes. And I encourage, yeah,
Chain of learning for personal growth and professional growth. So
yes, here we
you
go
have
together.
just made my professional growth and personal growth much more easier.
Yes.
And thank you very much for giving us that piece of advice. And thank you very much. And
thank you. And I encourage everyone.
I've joined your chain of learning group. So I'm not going to miss a single article from your.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I encourage everyone to, like Dr. M, to join my official chain of learning by signing up for my newsletter on my blog, or sorry, on my website, which is kbjanderson.com. And you can go through that, either the blog, or you can do /newsletter. Sign up for both Dr. M's and my YouTube channels. We both regularly post, and of course, follow us on LinkedIn, because we are often exchanging our ideas and connecting with each other and creating a broader chain of learning together. So
let's do the chain of learning together. And the key,
and
that's
we
how we
got
do the chain of learning, right?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Kitty.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Just hold on. I'm just stop recording.